Isha,
Yeah, you are in.
actually, I have joined and I
Uh-huh.
can hear you, but
Oh,
I'm not able to unmute and even video. Even video,
oh,
I am not able. Yeah.
okay. Well, at least
So
you can follow
it is
what we
saying
say.
that the host should allow,
Uh, but
but I'm hearing you
okay, let me see
and I
because
can see you. Yeah.
I don't see any. I don't know what to do because for the two others, for Manjiri and
Okay.
I had nothing
Anyway,
to
we can
do.
continue. I'm hearing you.
Okay, and
Right?
you can
Yeah.
use the chat,
Yes.
or even you can we can remain like that with my phone, and if you want to talk, hopefully the others will be able to hear you. Yeah, we can do that. So what do you want to talk about?
I think about composting, we had decided to talk on that topic.
Okay, Manoj and Radha, are you okay with that? Composting? Manoj, you are muted. Can you unmute yourself?
Yes, I unmuted it.
You are okay with the topic of composting?
Yes, no problem.
Okay. Radha, are you
Fine.
here?
Yes.
Oh no, now she muted. Radha, you muted the call on the WhatsApp call. Just one moment. Okay, let's start then. So I am new on hosting a meeting and sharing my screen. I will try to share my screen with you. Okay. So how to do that? Share my screen. Okay, here it is. Oh. Can you see my screen?
Yes, it's clear.
Okay. I will put it in. I try to put it in presentation mode. Okay. So how long should I spend on it? It's 10 past 4 now. Maybe we plan on 15 to 20 minutes. And if you have questions, you can always interrupt me. Are you okay with that?
Yeah, okay.
Okay. So my experience in composting is here in our ashram, there are several thousand people living, and I was supervising our compost unit that is managing up to 1 ton of organic waste every day. So it's not a small compost unit, it was a medium scale compost unit. And I also researched about home composting. I'd never practiced it myself. And I also researched on biogas, which is a bit complex, but I have no experience in biogas. So I made this presentation for internal purpose for our own community members. I never presented, actually it never happened, but it is here. And it is 2 years old, so I think it's still up to date. So do you have any knowledge about composting, the basics of composting, or you don't know anything at all?
Actually, I am composting. I'm doing home composting since 5 years.
Oh, okay, nice.
Yeah.
Manoj, you have any experience?
Yes, I am also composting for the last around 8 to 10 years. And from the very much beginning, I
At
started
home?
at my individual level.
Okay,
So I am doing it.
okay. So,
Actually, I am also using this smart bin type of buckets.
ah,
So kitchen waste is being entirely being composted in that.
nice. You can share, both of you, then you can share with me your experience. It will be interesting for me. Um, So the basics of compost, it's a fertile black soil, and composting is a process of making compost. Compost is a finished product. So I have two videos. Maybe I will not show them to you because we don't have much time, and you already are familiar with the basics. You know the problems of not composting, especially in India. Often the food waste ends up in landfills, and in landfills there are all the problems of pollution, air pollution, soil pollution, water pollution. It causes diseases, epidemics, etc. Any organic material that decomposes quickly can be composted. That is cardboard, paper, leaves. Wood is organic. It can be composted, but it takes a lot of time. And then the smaller it is, the quicker it will be composted. So basically, composting is a chemical process that requires four elements: carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, which is air, and moisture. So it's like a decomposition process, but controlled decomposition. When it goes to a landfill, it is uncontrolled, and therefore there are problems of pollution. But when we control the four different elements in the right proportion, then it is controlled and it happens smoothly and doesn't create pollution. And the end product is compost. So point number 4, it's really important to shred, but because you're practicing it at home level, to shred in small pieces the compostable material. The smaller it is and the quicker it will get composted. Okay. You know the problems of landfills that increase global warming is because it produces methane. Methane is 20 times more powerful than CO2, carbon dioxide, more harmful for atmosphere. And it is said that in India, half in volume of waste, half of the Indian household waste is biodegradable. So if we compost, it really makes a big difference. I will go quickly on that because you already know. So smell, worms, and flies can be a problem. Actually, it's difficult when you see on this picture, it's a medium scale composting, maybe for 100, 200, 300 kilos of organic waste per day. And it's difficult to avoid completely smell and flies. There will almost always be a little bit of smell and flies. You see, this is done outdoors, of course. This kind of big, medium or big scale composting processing should not be done near houses, near where people live nearby, because then they may complain about the smell. So if you do it in your home, maybe your wife or your husband will complain about it. But if you do a bigger compost unit outside, make sure you don't do it too close to neighbors. It should be at least a few hundred meters. So we can tell people when we want to encourage them to compost that it takes less time and effort than eating one jackfruit. You know how much effort it is required to eat a jackfruit. We have to peel it first. We have to put oil in our hands, all that. And really composting is easier and quicker, especially community composting. We'll talk about it later. Of course, the best way to avoid making waste is to finish your plate and not waste food. And it's so simple, but we may forget it. So we also have to always remind the people when we talk about not wasting, recycling, and composting, the first step is not creating waste. That's really important. Then rural people and urban people will not have the same possibilities, the same also problems when it comes to composting. In rural area, or if you have a courtyard or a garden, you may have easily make your own compost pile outside in your garden. And it's easier, even if there is a bit of smell, it won't be a problem for you. If you have domestic animals like cattle or chickens, or you can feed them with the remaining food waste also. But the garden waste, we'll talk about it later. It's really good to compost the garden waste. Very often I see here in my area, it's a village area. I see the people burning the dry leaves, burning the garden waste. It's such a pity because this is a precious resource. And if we turn it into compost, we don't create smoke, and also we create good compost that will fertilize the soil. So really, we have to encourage people everywhere to not burn the garden waste, but turn it into compost instead. And urban people, they don't have garden, then they really need, and they don't have animals also to feed with the food waste. So they really need to compost at home level or community level. So I haven't tried this Kanban method from Daily Dump.
I have tried.
You tried, nice. I think it's really, really a nice one for many reasons. It's natural material, it's not plastic. It's a traditional design. It supports Indian craftspeople. It's really cheap. And I love their, how to say, the spirit there. I love this company. I have a good feeling about them. So it's really easy to use. You have these 3 pots that you stock on top of each other's. Put a bit of dry material, accelerator, and they say there is no smell and there is no problem. Of course, it depends. You should follow properly the different steps. Okay, there is video, we will not watch it. As dry material, you can put dry leaves, cocoa peat, sawdust. They even sell it, but that you know, so I will not talk about it too much. Manoj, is it the smart bin you are using?
Yes, same bin I am using there. Yeah.
Okay, so you see the price is even less than the Canva, but it's made of plastic, which I prefer natural materials. And I don't know, it seems to be more high tech, and maybe it gives a better result or the same result. So there are lots of tutorials how to make your own compost bin for home composting on YouTube. I have a Hindi, you have the link here. There is one in Malayalam because I'm living in Kerala, so people here speak Malayalam. And other tutorial videos are available online. And you can also make your own compost bin. It's not difficult. I have a friend who is doing it. It costs almost nothing, and it works. Then about community composting, it's a bit more difficult to set up, to start. But then once it is started, it's even easier because instead of having every household doing this thing, then you just give your organic waste to the collectors, and then that's all. You forget about it. And also it can bring together the members of a community. It can create a feeling of pride about making their own compost, and it's visible by everybody, even the neighbors, and it helps encouraging people to and communicating about making compost, because people may not know, but when they see a composter, when they see you making your compost, they may feel, you know, encouraged to try to do the same in their community. So I listed 4 composting solutions. The mesh composting, it seems, I haven't tried it, but it seems to be really the best option for many reasons. Closed containers, they have a better design, they look better. Biogas plants is really a separate option, which I haven't tried. And then there are a few other options. So just about the law, what it says, maybe you know about it. The Solid Waste Management Rules 2016. The law in India says that all gated community and institutions with more than 5,000 square meter area shall ensure segregation of waste at source by the generators as prescribed in these rules, facilitate collection of segregated waste in separate streams, hand over recyclable material to either the authorized waste pickers or the authorized recyclers, and the biodegradable waste shall be processed, treated, and disposed of through composting or biomethanation, this is biogas, within the premises as far as possible. So we should always remind the people that it is mandatory to compost for a community, to compost or do some biogas. So this is, again, it comes from a Daily Dump webinar, which is 1 hour, a little bit more than 1 hour. It's really, really interesting. So in a community, we need these 5 points if we want to manage the waste at the community level. Segregation at source is maybe the most difficult step to achieve, but it is the first requirement. And then we can use our knowledge in communication to help with that. Then it requires a little bit of space, but really, if you take a closed container technique, it's very little space. A budget, of course, but we will see that the payback is always more than the investment. And the housekeeping allotted, of course, some manpower is needed, and champions that manage means a few people who will be really involved and like in charge of it, and they will have to monitor it and make sure there is no problem, troubleshoot, or ask some experts to help if needed to troubleshoot any problems. Of course, if you have any question, feel free to interrupt me, okay?
Vishak, I would like to know which type of composting you are doing in your ashram.
Okay. Does it? Oh, it comes to it. I will talk to you after this slide.
Okay.
I will tell you after this slide. So the first requirement, segregation at source. It's really the biggest challenge. And the payback, it's a budget, the payback will come in many ways. So in our ashram, we were doing this windrow composting. That means a windrow is a technical term for just a row. It is usually about 1.5 meter wide, up to 2.5 meter wide, and 1 to 1.5 meter tall. So it's a row of typically 2 meters wide by 1.5 in height, and it can be as long as, depends how much space you have. For us, we had maybe 15-meter shed with a roof, and in this area we had approximately three rows of 15 meters of compost. So total was 45 meters of compost, 2 meters wide by 1.5 tall. And what we did, we had a big sorting table, 3 meters long, and we dumped the food waste. We had to collect the food waste in the ashram first. We had some waste stations. The people were directly bringing their it's not before, it's still happening now. Everybody brings their waste to our waste stations, and then they sort it themselves. We have maybe 7 different kinds of bins. We segregate in 7 different categories, and we ask the people to do it themselves. Okay, this is possible only because we're a community with a strong sense of being a community. We are all like brothers and sisters. We have common values, and we have Amma, who is the head of our ashram, who encourages everybody to do things properly. So the people are really into it. They feel really involved and they feel responsible for it, so it works. So this food waste, we dump it on the sorting table. Of course, there is always a little bit of non-organic in it, a little bit of plastic, metal, glass, all that, mostly plastic. So we have to sort it, to do a further sorting to remove all the plastics. And then we mix it with cow dung, and we mix it with a dry material. What we use mostly is wood chips, because we have our own carpentry workshop, wood workshop. So we produce wood chips, and we also we shred our paper, the small bit of paper or the dirty paper, which we cannot sell. We shred it. We have a shredding machine, and then we also use it in the compost. So after the sorting, we put a little bit of cow dung. We put this shredded paper, sawdust, and we mix it together and push it on the ground, and we make these big rows of compost. And we cover it with sawdust to reduce the smell, to reduce the flies. We also cover it with a kind of net, a plastic woven net that will let the air through. It's very important that it doesn't get anaerobic. That means the air should be able to go through because it's an aerobic kind of composting. And covering it prevents the smell and the flies mostly. Otherwise, you will have flies come on it and lay their eggs, and then it will become maggots. And we don't want maggots because it will bring more flies, and it's not nice. And
Just
then
a
you have
doubt,
to,
Vishal.
Yeah.
Cow dung which you are using, is that in dry form?
No, we have cows at the ashram, so it's fresh cow dung. Hmm.
Okay. Then it will be a very wet kind of thing.
Sorry?
The mixture will be very wet, I think, if the fresh cow dung is used.
You don't need a lot. In proportion, in percentage, I don't know, it's maybe 2-3% only, maybe 5%. And if you don't use cow dung, that's fine. When you start a new composting pile, you need some starter to bring the bacteria in. But then what we do also, I didn't tell you, but after, when we have finished compost, we reuse a little bit of this finished compost to put in the new compost. When we mix the food waste with dry material, we add a little bit of our already finished compost to bring in the bacteria.
Yeah.
And then you don't really need cow dung. If you have a very wet food waste like leftovers, rice, curry, all that, you may not put cow dung. But if you have more dry things like peels, typically peels and leaves and this kind of thing that's more dry, then you may want to add more cow dung to make it a little bit wet. So it's not completely, it's not really needed to put cow dung. It will only speed up the process because it brings more beneficial bacteria. So this is what we do. Now we could also use this on the slide now, the mesh composting. We could also use this system. I found these pictures from a community that is in Bengaluru, I think, and they have 250 households. That is about 1,000 people. So they have quite a lot of food waste, and it works really well. The advantage why I like this system, it's very easy, it's very simple, and it's very cheap, but it requires a little bit of space. I think we have one more picture. Yeah. So you need some metal and rope to make these these things here. A few gunny bags. You can see they put gunny bags around, wrap it around to prevent the rats to come in. A few cement blocks that you lay on the floor, and then you will build your compost on top of that. And you need a protection from rain because you really need to maintain the right proportion of moisture in your compost pile. That's very important. If you make it too wet, it will smell, it will become anaerobic, not enough oxygen, and it will go bad. If it's too dry, then the composting process will be paused. It will stop, and nothing will happen. So either you make a shed like you have a shed where you can see on the picture with a roof, or if you don't have the money for that, you can just put, a piece of some covering on top of each mesh bit, and that will do it too. Number 5, you need enough space. Number 6, you need some dry material, dry leaves or sawdust. Dry leaves enough may not be, alone may not be enough. You may need some sawdust or cocoa peat. I think cocoa peat is better than sawdust. If you can get some, you can also buy. And sea cow dung is optional. It's good if you have. If you don't have, it's okay.
Hello.
Yeah.
Yes. Actually, such type of composting will not flies, etc. Why it has not been covered from the top? it is open, and I think it will also release the methane. So I think if it is covered, then it can give good quality of compost rather than open. It is open there.
See, there are basically two kinds of composting: aerobic and anaerobic. Aerobic means with oxygen, using oxygen, and anaerobic means without oxygen. And both work. But if you have a lot of food waste and you want to make a big composting unit, like if you have 250 households, typically 1,000 people, anaerobic composting, I don't know if it exists, then it will be biogas. Biogas is an anaerobic way of composting. And it happens in a closed tank. And then you have zero methane production. In the case of this kind of mesh composting, which is aerobic composting, there will be a release of a little bit of methane, but it's really neglectable. It's only a very little. In this kind of aerobic composting, if you cover it, it will not, the process will not happen smoothly because it needs oxygen to happen. If you cover it, it will become bad because it will be too wet. And if you remove the oxygen, harmful bacteria will develop instead of the beneficial bacteria. So if you do that in a biogas unit, in a tank, and you adapt the moisture content, then it's fine. But this is another composting method. It's biogas.
Okay, thank you.
So the way to do this mesh composting, collect the segregated food waste, is very simple. You just put 15 centimeters of dry material in the bottom, and then you add 15 centimeters of food waste, and you repeat till the mesh is full. So if you have a lot, you will fill your mesh bin in just a few days. And if you have less food waste, it may take 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, no problem. And if you fill your mesh bin after a few days, then you will make a new one. And you can have as many as you need. You can have 10, 12, 15, as many as you want. Then number 3, you have to wait 2 to 3 weeks. Number 4, you transfer the content of the mesh bin into another mesh bin or on the ground for curing for 1 month. So this is a very important process. We need to mix, there needs to be some mixing of the material. To bring more air, that's one point. And to also help the process in general. And the curing step, the curing stage is also important. It takes time to make finished compost. And even after 2 months, you may not have completely finished compost. So that's number 5, collect the finished compost. Use immediately in the garden or air dry for 3 days before stocking it. So as I was saying, your compost may not be fully finished and you may have to water it a little bit and let it cure for some more time. And you may have also to turn it again, mix it again, or transfer it again in another mesh bin. It depends on several factors. The atmosphere, how wet the weather is, how if it's sunny, if it's hot or less hot, if you will water your compost, what you use to make your compost, if the material is very like leftovers of food like curry and rice, the water content is more, or if it's vegetable peels or fresh leaves, then the water content is less. So but even if your compost is not fully finished, you can still use it. Maybe you don't want to use it for delicate plants like potted plants, but you can just spread it on the ground. And when it rains, the weather will help to make this finished compost. As time goes, it will anyway go back to the soil and it will fertilize the soil. So if your compost is not fully finished, you can give it to to trees or big plants, and not to potted plants or small delicate plants, because then it might kind of burn the plants. That's important to know. So this is a closed container. You see, it really looks different. You can grow plants around, and people can pass by. They will not even know what is inside. And if you make it properly, there will be no smell. And this may be, it may look really nice in a, in a community, apartment community. The problem is the price. One unit will be 45,000 rupees, and you need minimum two. Why? Because after a few weeks, when you fill completely this tank, you have to let it cure for at least 1 month. And then all the food waste you will continue to produce during this time, you need another unit to put it in. So closed containers, you will always need at least 2 units. So this is the process to compost in a closed container. It's exactly the same as in the mesh bins. You put layers of dry waste, dry material and wet material until you fill the container. Then you transfer the content to another bin for curing. This may be needed or it may not be needed. It depends. It's possible to collect the compost directly from the bin without curing it, but it won't be really finished. That's what I was telling you. But even if it's not finished, you just lay it on the ground. Don't give it to small plants, and you can give it for trees or things like that. And it will mix, it will merge with the soil. For the compost to happen more smoothly, you may need to add a microbial solution. It is sold by the company because aeration is less than in the mesh bin. You saw the mesh bin, it's big holes and you have more air going through. So there are different kinds of closed containers. You have this Should Lab brand to the left. Then you have this one in the middle, and you have this big tank to the right, up to 100 households. But they all work in the same process. You can see the price. Here again, this is for up to 15 kilos only, so it will be 10 to 15 homes. But it's 6,000 rupees only. This is bigger, up to 100 homes, 40,000 rupees. And this is a nicer one, but for only 5 families. So if you want to start something with your neighbors, for instance, or if you are a lot of people living in the same home, this may be good for you. And this is by daily dump also. Another one by daily dump, 20 kilos or more of food waste. You can see it's quite expensive. Also, it's a mix of different solutions on this slide. Yeah, this is a daily dump. Oh, leaf composting. So you can buy some, but you can also make it yourself. It's really easy, and then it becomes really cheap. And even if you have only dry leaves, as I was telling you, instead of burning them and creating smoke, that's not nice. It's also pollute. It also creates pollution and respiratory diseases. If you turn it into compost, it's very simple, and you have nothing to do, and it's a nice way to make compost. Now, if you have a garden, a backyard, you can use this kind of, I don't know how you call it in English, pallets maybe, to make compost in your garden. And you can compost all your garden waste like that. So the summary, it's cheap. That's an important thing to tell people. Composting is cheap. And community composting is more difficult to start than home composting, but once it is started, then it will be easier for everybody. Then it's about biogas, but I don't know if you want, it's already late. It's 4:45. I don't know if you want me to talk about it. I don't have much experience in it either. And it's a totally different topic. I think that's all. We maybe go to the summary. Yeah. So for a community, a waste solution is really mandatory by law. It requires a waste segregation system. That's the main difficulty, the main challenge to achieve it. It really can be very cheap, and you will also get the payback in form of compost as a fertilizer. You will not need to buy fertilizer. Even some municipalities purchase the compost from the people from the apartment complex. And you can tell the people composting is really our dharma as human beings and as citizens. You have a few links here, and that's it. So if you have questions or if you want to share your own experience, feel free. Or if you don't have any question, I am
Thank you,
curious.
Vishak, for this nice presentation. I just want to know how many people are working for this composting work in your ashram?
In our ashram, it has been a few years. Oh my God, many years. I am no longer doing it for the last 6 years, and I don't know now. There was also a change. We purchased a machine that does the mixing and the shredding together, and it really helps. It really now we need much less manpower. So it may be without the collection is really a big job in itself. You know, it's a job in itself. But if we talk about only about the processing of the food waste and making the compost, it may be only 4 people.
Only 4 people.
Yeah. Now collecting the food waste daily will take also 4 people, I think.
Actually, manpower is very much needed for this work, and consistent working is required.
Yes, some manpower is needed. That's true. Yeah. But when I say 4 people, I don't mean full time. It's 4 people for maybe 4 hours. Now I'm really not sure because as I was telling you, it has been many years that I'm no longer involved in it, and I don't know for sure how long it takes.
Okay. Actually, I'm working for to get a proper team for this work because I have installed a composter in one apartment. But manpower is the issue. Only one person, if he will be made responsible, then that is not working. Yesterday only I realized. So proper manpower is required.
You know, it depends. It depends on the quantity of organic waste. It depends if you have a shredder, because if you have a shredder, it will make it easier and quicker. The composting process will really be speeded, happen faster.
I don't think I can invest for a shredder at this stage.
Now I remember what I read when I went on a blog. I will show you the picture. Yeah, it was this one. You see? I remember that this community, it was 50 homes, I think, in their complex, and they don't turn it. They don't transfer it. They just let it cure in this tank itself, and then they collect it. And because of that, I think it doesn't take much time and effort for them. It takes more time and effort for us because we do some turning. We have these big rows and we turn them manually. And this takes time. And even to shape the rows, to make them, takes time too. And we have this, we spend time also really removing the little bit of plastics that comes with the food waste. But if your segregation is really proper, if the people do a good job in segregating at source, then all you need to do is the layering and then the collection of the compost when it's ready. And then it really cuts the time you spend on it. So what we do in the ashram is there are more stages, there is more work done with this kind of containers. It's not exactly the same system. Maybe also our compost is of better quality, maybe it is better finished. But what this kind of system on the picture, the tank system, it still allows a correct processing, and it allows to turn the organic waste into something that will not be harmful for the environment. There will be no air pollution, just a very little bit of methane, but it's almost nothing. And there will be no water pollution and soil pollution. And even if what you get is not fully finished compost, you just spread it in any, lawn or forest or park or wherever, and it will naturally finish composting. With the sun and rain, it will happen naturally. So you should not think that because we need this many people and time, it's needed in all situations. Because all these solutions I showed you here, this one and this one, and all these solutions here, it doesn't require much time. They just layer the materials, and then you see there is a small door, a small opening in the bottom. They collect it. There is still the curing. You want to let it cure, and then you have to collect it again. But if you have only 50 households or 100 households, it will not be that much. We really have thousands of people. We have maybe 3,000 residents plus thousands and thousands of visitors coming every day. So the amount of food waste we have is much, much more. It's around 500 kg, up to 1 ton. That's why it takes so much time for us.
Okay, this blue composter is from which company? Can you tell?
This one, see, it says. Sorry, what's your question?
Blue. There are two composters shown here. This
Yeah.
blue one, yeah, this one. From which company?
See, it's written on the barrel. It says Should Lab.
Achha. Okay.
Should Lab.
Yeah.
The links that I put on the slide is no longer working. Unfortunately, it's a blog. It was an excellent blog, but
I have heard of this. I know.
Yeah.
The name I know, but this composter design I don't.
And if you look on YouTube, you may even find tutorials to make exactly the same kind yourself. You need to get a big barrel. You take a drilling machine, make some holes, and someone who is a little bit, able to do some manual work can cut it and make a small opening like that, and you don't need even to buy it. I mean, it's possible to do it yourself.
Yeah, I know. That's why I'm asking, because right now
Uh-huh.
I'm using the same drum, but I have not made the opening.
Ah,
Holes I have made.
yeah, if you don't make the opening, the thing is, once it is full, you have to tilt it down and put it
Yeah.
upside down to get,
Yeah.
it's more difficult,
Yeah.
but it works. So,
Okay, Vishak, I have to leave now. Can I leave now?
yeah,
Can we
sure.
wrap up now?
Yeah,
I have to leave from office.
okay. I'll see you next time.
Yeah.
Hello. Hello.
Yeah, Manoj.
Thank you very much for a very nice presentation. And I think such type of composters that has been shown in the presentation, and also it can be prepared with under do it yourself.
Exactly.
Means if we involve the people and they have to design with their own ideas, so community can prepare their own some such type of the composters as per their requirement, as per their needs, if they understand the basic principle behind it, that they how do they make it. And most important thing is that we have to involve the community. We have not to provide them that just use it. We have to involve the community, because community participation or people participation is a much part of it.
You're completely right.
On
Yeah.
really very good lecture, and I'm very much impressed with it, all these your presentation. And I would like to also go for it because I am trying in my area to propagate such type of means domestic base, means individual household base, and on the concept of the zero waste management, zero waste
Yeah.
house, zero waste home, means no waste should come outside. This is about the biodegradable, and we are also trying to get it for the recyclable material also. Segregating at source, maximum material can be utilized for the composting, and the remaining recyclable material we have to also handle it separately. So very nice meet this we have to meet it, and then it will be very much helpful for us and who are involved in these activities. A very good initiative. Thank you very
Yeah.
much. Thank you.
You're welcome. If you have just 1 minute, I would like to hear from you if you're happy with your own smart bin, and if you met with any problem in the beginning or even now, if you have some troubles with it.
Okay. Thank you very much again. Thank you.
No, I wanted to ask you if you can
Yes.
just give me a quick feedback about your own smart bin. Are you happy with it? Do you have any troubles? Did you have troubles in the beginning?
No trouble at all. And from the very beginning, earlier I have used the Khamba from the daily dump. I think it is about 10 years back. I have also used that one, and I have also developed my own. Some in next presentation, I would like to show you how I am using it and how it is beneficial. And now I have got this zero waste based home concept. So I would like to try my presentation that I have developed it and how I am communicating or involving the people with it.
Okay.
So I am thankful and grateful to you.
Okay.
Thank you.
See you next time.
Okay, thank you.
Bye.